Participants, hello to you all from University of Calcutta in India, a country, old country from Asia. You know, my university is the oldest university in India. And I wish you all a very happy learning experience in today's IFLA Set webinar, where you will get to know what two luminaries in our world have to say regarding an very important LIS facet, which is digital libraries and learning. As you know, I, Professor Susmita Chakraborty, is one IFLA addict, just like you all, and we are happy to present IFLA Set webinar. This is the second webinar, third webinar of our series, third or fourth webinar of our series. And before this webinar on digital libraries and learning, we had webinars on knowledge management, which has been presented by Kendra Albright and also a colleague of Kendra, that was attended by well over 600 participants from over 21 countries. We are really happy that SET can reach to different parts of the globe and can send its learning and messages to so many countries all around our world. We hope this could help us all to connect with you, to connect the global community of learners. Today, we have a problem with our video, which is operating rather peculiarly. Maybe this is a blotch. We have to tolerate for some few moments while Alvina and the headquarter people are fixing it. In the meantime, we will try to give you some of the background information regarding this program. Before that, I wish to remind you that IFLA Set has arranged webinars where many of us could have learned different software and its intricacies, e-learning related things, MOOCs and other things we have learned. And I will take this podium to reach to you all, especially to my IFLA Set colleagues. Please feel free to write to me if you have something interesting which can be useful as a webinar topic. I see there are people from Ukraine, from Bucharest, from Nigeria, from Lebanon, from USA, from Malaysia, from Russia, from Mexico, and I wish all of you to suggest or to recommend yourself or one of your learned friend to offer a topic and a speaker as a topic or a speaker for our IFLA Set webinar. So today's topic, as we know, is digital libraries and learning. You know, digital libraries are there for decades, but since this COVID-19 lockdown, the importance of digital libraries have been increased manifold, and e-learning has been dependent heavily on digital libraries. Today we have two great persons. One is Dr. Anna Maria Tammaro from Parma University, Italy, and another is Dr. Juan D. Machin-Mastromatteo, who is from Mexico. Uh, so both professors will deal with many aspects of digital libraries and learnings. Before we continue, let me remind you about the privacy policy of IFLA. Total program is being recorded. Even the chats are being recorded. So please be polite, be courteous, and please go through all etiquettes while you are writing chats. There should not be any hate chat or any obscene remarks or any slang words. Please use your caution to type your chats so that those chats are also becoming information objects and greetings and connecting objects. Okay, so what are the privacy policies? Video will be posted on YouTube, and the link will be posted on the section on education and training webpage and social media like Facebook. Microphones will be muted during the program. You have to type your chats in the question and answer box where your questions can be put, and it will be taken up after our speakers complete their lectures. So after the program of lectures is completed, you can be answered. Your questions will be picked up from the box and it will be answered. And this program is GDPR compliant. All the IFLA policies and Zoom policies are in force. So we request you to enjoy our speakers, Ana Maria Tammaro and Juan D. Machin-Mastromatteo. Welcome to the talk given by two professors, one from Italy and one from Mexico.
First of all, I would like to thank you all the colleagues. Special thank you to Susmita and Albina to organizing this event. And I hope that before the end of this meeting, we can show also our face. But anyway, this topic, digital libraries and learning, is the focus of the master deal. I was involved together with Tallinn University and Oslo University College. And since this is my experience, I was also very interested to combine the digital library with the learning. Learning is one of the most important activity of humanity, also in the present time, in the particular time, pandemic situation. It was evident the importance for all of us to improve learning. Learning is non-formal, formal, informal, and since the beginning, libraries have been always connected to learning as a potential resource. This photo is the Alexandria Didascaleion, painting by Raphael during the Renaissance in the Vatican Library, and is evidencing very well what is the main characteristic of learning. Learning is a social process and involves conversation. Raphael depicted in this painting of the most important aspect of his time, and in the Editorial was connected to the library of Alessandria, one of the most important library in the all time. And so, an overview of this presentation, I am sharing with Juan, who was one of the previous students and the alumni now of DIL. We start with theory and praxis of digital library and e-learning, trying to involve what is research and teaching for teachers, but also I imagine most of you will be also the student or library science. And there is a theoretical framework which is common for both for digital libraries and e-learning. There is the gap anyway, I will say more, between digital library and learning ecosystem. And then Juan will speak about his research during the period of pandemic. We will sum up with some perspective. I start with the concept of digital library. There are different models, but the concept we sustain is the more social process, social technical system, starting from the Archbishop seminar in 2003. UNESCO has evidenced that digital library can be a learning environment and collect not only with the curation of resources, but with the services and tools that support the learner. Now we are evolving the digital libraries from the first pioneers idea of intellectual processes for knowledge creation. We are now more participative and reflective digital library. And so we are also more closing sometimes the gap with e-learning. E-learning concepts are developed in the same time, but separately from digital library, and there are the same different concepts, one more based on technology enhancement, one more learner-centered, and so focused on the interaction with the instructors and the interaction between learners, and some form of support. But the prevailing concept now is again a participatory project concept, learning environment, more learner-centered, where learners continue to connect and communicate to improve learning. What is interesting in the parallel history of digital library and e-learning community is that in the beginning, the pioneers were the same. For example, Gordon Pask, who developed the theory of conversation, was starting the instructional design idea and starting from learning object. and following him, Garnier was developing the first step of instructional design. And so both digital libraries and e-learning are to be considered a learning environment. The theoretical framework is the same. It's the framework of human-computer interaction, and people are the learners, but also the teachers, in particular in different more structured form of learning. The technology is facilitating, and the process is for digital library considered the retrieval, the access to information, and the information seeking, information behavior. The process for e-learning is learning and instructional design and constructivist approach to learning. And so at the moment, there is a gap between the two communities, also if they have so much in common. And the process or research in the education or social process, but we have developed it differently. This is the gap we have now in the learning ecosystem with digital libraries, which usually are not so involved as they could be, because they have to move from a more prescriptive idea of knowledge to a constructivist approach, and become student-centered, support learner with a dynamic, interactive environment. Also, they have to enable group work and give autonomy to students, emphasizing also competencies like surely information literacy. And so there is an approach more traditional where digital libraries are taught, considered just as a repository of learning and other services and tools, to a more instead active a dynamic learning environment where some authors, both from the digital library community and the e-learning community, have evidenced point of bridging the gap. For example, some sort of methodology or learning like inquiry-based or problem-based learning, games, simulation. And this also a more educational role related to outcome and assessment, which is important. For the competencies, digital libraries are considered good support for MIL, media information literacy. And so the digital libraries are evolving.
Maria?
Yes?
Sorry to disturb you. Can you speak a little louder? Some
okay.
having a bit difficulty. Can you speak, please, a little louder?
Okay, thank you, Susmita.
Thank you so much.
Just to show to you some good practice, the British Library is one of the most active in this evolution of services of digital libraries, which has been evidenced by a web page offered to learners, school teachers and learners of all age. And also British Library is very active in open education. This environment offered by digital library is including many activities, workshops, and event for continual professional development. And there is a lot of interaction using social media. And so I think that just as an example, good practice, the British Library is to be considered a good model. I apologize, I have only considered the example from Europe because I know better, but I'm sure that you can evidence other good practice from your country. Europeana is also very involved. Europeana is the European Digital Library, and education is in its mission. The good, interesting project Europeana is launched always start with a new page in Europeana website, including not only structured and traditional learning, but lifelong learning. For employers and employees, and in general the industry sectors, Europeana Space tried to stimulate creativity using the resource of digital library, but organizing projects incubated because they were hosted by the Europeana Space, and following MOOC, hackathon and workshop to stimulate creativity and also employability, and some reuse of resource in the industry. Another project of Europeana is Historiana, just for history, and so it's a thematic site, but with many additions which make close Europeana to education tool. The most important addition is the functionalities of activity builder with template for preparing lesson plan, preparing exercise, simulation, whatever, and the share. The teachers can reuse some of the lesson plan already done, or they can create their own, and also students are active because they can do their assignment and they share. The same, there are activities, some prepare package of resource together with the lesson plan. And Historiana, like British Library, is driving the open education concept. Open education is facilitating very much the development of digital library in educational environment. Also, the professional in general, all the libraries are involved more or less in learning, and since 2006 there is the standard developed by Elsevier, and there are now experience in the professional literature, both of traditional and not traditional services, where digital libraries are bridging the gap for learning. So traditional services are more related to access to information, and most of them are collection centered, but there are the non-traditional services, most of them where the libraries try to have a more interactive, dynamic relation with the learner, based on inquiry and flipped classroom and innovative methodology on learning. And they are learner-centered, putting the communities of learners at the center and supporting the faculty for structural design, developing or facilitating group tasks, sometimes also taking the role of assessment and certification. And so there is now a good literature from the digital library, but also the e-learning community prospect, speaking of bridging the gap and developing more active learning environment where the digital library not only are embedded or facilitating e-learning, but become themselves e-learning environment. There are in particular good authors I recommend in this list, which have developed the idea and opened it to new models of digital library. I just remember here Marcionini, Dobreva, Milena Dobreva, e Cultao and Lynch, which are driving the new models. I think that the pandemic period has been accelerating these models of digital library for learning, and give the floor to Juan, Machin-Mastromatteo, who can show his experience of in his research.
Thank you, Dr. Tammaro. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. In the next part of the presentation, we're going to talk about issues, challenges from the perspective of digital libraries and learning in the context of the pandemic. Of course, it's a topic that worries us all a lot, right? And the first question I would like to pose without necessarily an answer will be, were we prepared to face the pandemic? Because suddenly someone flicked a switch and then we went all online because of the lockdowns, right? But hardly we were prepared unless we were in some institutions where we offered a consistent and large offer of online courses or programs, right? We suddenly had to switch everything to online, right? So now we are in a moment when higher education, particularly, and of course, traditional libraries have a very big test because in the side of higher education, we are competing now with some specialized companies that where their business was started online for teaching or delivering courses, and now we are competing with them on equal ground. We are all in online mode, so the question is, how are we going to take the lead? And also, in the part of libraries, did libraries respond, at least by ensuring that remote access to databases was widely known and used, particularly, of course, in academic libraries? And that will be the bare minimum, right? To ensure that there was a solution for accessing information resources from home outside campus, of course, because campus is closed. And then if we had that solution to ensure that all users knew how to connect via proxy or whatever, right? Then some students challenges, and I I will provide these lists that were taken from literature that was published during the first wave after the first lockdowns. Uh, the interesting thing is that it allows us to identify some of the most serious challenges. From the students' perspectives, we have that satisfaction with their e-learning experiences have been mixed. Uh, and then some students will say that they have adapted, but the challenging part is that to keep motivation high and also to handle well their self-efficacy, because students must be more independent at these times, right? And everyone should be more independent because we are managing our time and also other duties at home, right? Of course, students miss lectures and personal communication with their professors. E-learning, of course, for them could not replace face-to-face learning, and not many students will want to continue in this way, right? With an exclusive e-learning model. The other question is, are all students able to access and afford the technologies and the connectivity they need to continue their studies? We have a very large issue that all over the world there will be several divides, right? And they could be more serious in some countries than in others. Effective learning in this context, in this case where everything switched online, it will involve greater autonomy from students, more self-regulation from them, and some skills to learn online. And of course, other soft skills such as time management, of course. We also have institutional challenges. Institutions had to adapt or try to adapt as quickly as possible their procedures and activities, with varying degrees of success, of course. And they should have organized quickly e-learning courses and set up the platforms if they were not in place, especially, and surely to provide the training and support needed by students, by professors, by support staff. Some universities have had very nice initiatives in providing, at least on loan, some equipment to bridge the divides because not every student will have access to a computer. It has been important and more than ever to analyze if the systems we are using are the most appropriate and are the most effective as possible to fulfill our purposes. And a very good model, Dr. Tammaro presented a very good model to think and develop digital libraries in an holistic way and to analyze e-learning platforms and their success, their effectiveness in helping students with their learning processes. A good model, a very strong one to analyze this is that, of course, technology acceptance model. Perhaps some of you will know this model. It's a very, very good model that has been widely used. I will show a slide about it. There are also issues around systems accessibility, their availability, usability, reliability, personalization, and service quality. These are all, of course, variables that also connect with the technology acceptance model. Some more institutional challenges. I think institutions are the stakeholder that is put more to the test right now, right? So learning systems which are not easy to use nor flexible will harm experiences. So extra care should be put in selecting the appropriate tools and activate the necessary features and teach users how to use them, of course. Provide professors with their necessary autonomy and trust. That is also key, and not every time it happens, right? Ensuring good communication among stakeholders with appropriate channels. Institutions should plan for e-learning to become a regular part of education post-pandemic. We have terms such as the new normal, right? Perhaps, and most surely, most surely, we will have to live with COVID-19 for a long time. So it's best to plan accordingly, as if we were not going to return in a while. Support teaching staff to ensure they effectively engage students and deliver their courses, and of course, to know that in order for professors to be really effective, the number of students they can have is, of course, limited. So institutions should keep workloads in check. Here you have the technology acceptance model, very simple way to draw it. It was proposed by the end of the 80s. The important thing is that the quality of a system will relate to the use and the satisfaction of the user when trying the platform. We talk about something that is called perceived ease of use. If users perceive that a platform is easy to use, that will benefit the performance of users in the platform. Also, the system adoption, the perceived usefulness. If I think the platform is easy to use, I will also think of it that is very useful. And also, that will benefit the efficacy of users in the platform. It will not get in the way, right? It will become easy to use, second nature to use. Sufficient time must be invested in learning activities to be effective. So perhaps past year we all felt that we were rushing, right, to comply and to offer library services or to teach our students and deliver them the lectures. Perhaps now we have had more time to think about it and better plan our semester and our activities. On the side of teaching, it's important for students, of course, and now more than ever, it's important for them to receive timely feedback as soon as possible for all the activities they are doing. And also to be organized is very important. One of the things that has happened in some cases, of course, it's not general, in some courses, some professors have sent presentations or readings instead of delivering online lectures. But perhaps the majority has been delivering online lectures and recording them. To record online lectures, I will say that it's a best practice right now. Of course, we should adapt institutions to an e-learning model, look for students' feedback and support them because they will have more difficulties outside of learning. They will also struggle emotionally, like us, right? We should look for a balance between too few or too many assignments. Sometimes I say jokingly that sometimes we have an assignment-based model. That is to say, we we give students too many assignments. Perhaps just reduce them a little bit and make them significant. For some disciplines, the main challenge is not being able to provide enough or any practical instruction. There is no access to laboratories, for instance. And of course, the pandemic has highlighted some serious needs of developing digital and information literacy for students to know how to access information, how to evaluate information, and reuse it to create knowledge and learn from it. Some good experiences for e-learning. Now among the good things we have right now is that it's easier now that we are all working online to invite more guest lecturers from different parts of the world, people who will use different strategies and provide different visions to our students, and some of them will be outside of academia, providing more practical experience or work experience to our students regarding our topics. To use tools that will allow knowledge co-creation, to co-construct knowledge, to interact with content, to use and integrate social media tools in our classes will help engagement and relationship building and collaborative creation, because might have happened to you. Perhaps you have some lectures where students don't know each other and it's difficult for them to connect among themselves. So social media is, of course, a kind of tool created especially for socialization and also communication. To provide technical skills for future working opportunities will be also very useful. But you have to keep in mind that among the things that you should work and also foster as a professor is to see how you can engage them more and also try to increase their discipline, self-direction, to nurture it and improve it, because it's more needed now than in face-to-face classes. And of course, you can also rely on implementing participatory methodologies and information literacy to improve and enrich your courses. So good experiences from libraries, just a few that have appeared recently. There is the opportunity, if you have good initiatives, to reposition your libraries, particularly academic libraries within the larger institution, to enhance their support of other areas and also explore or explode the possibilities of document delivering services, because most students will not have access to study materials, to readings, and you can explode the possibilities of that kind of service. And while you're at it, perhaps you can also teach some information literacy and provide advice to students. Other initiatives to strengthen the library community, which is all online. They cannot go to the building anymore. So you can strengthen it and do not lose it by providing some online activities and sites. We have an experience there that it was about using a Minecraft server associated with the library. That was very interesting. And of course, increase the number of videos, tutorials, and webinars. And many, many libraries all over the world have been doing just that. We have a very good case, that is the system of libraries from the National University of Mexico, that is providing many, many online materials and seminars. I want to share with you some results of a worldwide survey that was coordinated by scholars from Slovenia with many international partners, and we managed to get 31,000 answers spanning 6 continents, more than 100 countries, and 150 institutions. We wanted to know how was student life during COVID-19 regarding teaching, learning, social contacts, and mental health. In a scale from 1 to 5, these are just selected results, of course. Regarding satisfaction with university facilities and staff, we have that they are most satisfied with teachers, and then with lectures, and then with IT services. But the library is in the bottom 3 facilities that they are most satisfied with. So it's among the least, right? The library is just at the bottom 3, just before international offices and the accounting departments. Regarding their performance, students think that in this period, during this period, it's more difficult for them to focus. Some of them will think that their performance has worsened, but they have somehow adapted well. And for the students to think that their performance is improved is the weakest category, right? Their confidence in computer skills, they are most confident in using communication platforms, but not so much with the specialized software for their fields and their teaching platforms. You have here a word cloud that was derived from the open question in the survey about how they feel about it, about studying e-learning during COVID. Regarding the equipment, you can see here the divides. These are percentages, and they are the worldwide average percentages. Of course, you will have countries where divides are stronger and others where the divide will be weaker. So 75% of students have access to a computer. One of the most challenging parts perhaps will be that only 52% claim to have a quiet place to study. That is a very important thing. Regarding the emotions, they feel bored, anxious, hopeful, frustrated, joyful, proud, and angry. Their worries, among students' worries, we have that they mostly worry about their professional future and the studying issues, their future education, and of course their finances. It's interesting to see what they think about the class workload compared to face-to-face learning. For a percentage, it has been significantly larger or larger. I'm about to finish. If you want to learn more about the survey, you can find the link there. I believe the organizers will share our slides so you can access this brief document afterwards. There's an invitation from us for you to check our first part of a special issue on digital libraries and COVID-19, the library experiences that I have briefly presented. You can find the articles there, and by now they are available in open access. And very, very soon, we are going to publish part 2. Here you will find my references as well with their links. Then I will give the floor again to Dr. Tammaro, who is going to provide a brief conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, everybody. Just, I think it's not a conclusion because the work is in progress, and I think prefer speaker perspectives. Surely there is a cross-pollination among digital libraries community and the e-learning community in this period. Also thanks to the positive effect of pandemic. And there is a good literature and a new research where the two communities are collaborating to develop a new model. Digital libraries can improve learning. I think that, as also Dobreva say, we should shift to a learner-centered approach. And we need not only retrieval and information seeking research, but we need empathy and learn better the active pedagogy. And so I think it's time for your question. We thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, Ana Maria. That's
Yes.
an excellent presentation by both of you. And the work was so great. This research work, which is, as you say, is still continuing, is really an excellent piece of research work for which Dr. Professor Ana Maria is synonymous with a great researcher. The name is, we know, is so famous as a researcher. So really that is excellent work. And presentation of this work at this podium, IFLA said, is really proud to host such an inception of a good quality research work. Now we have Dr. Juan and Dr. Professor Ana Maria as our speakers in the podium, and we have some questions from the from our participants. So I will request them to answer this question one by one. The first question is, before pandemic, during the pandemic, and after the pandemic, digital learning have been used by patrons differently. Now, after the pandemic, how should library professionals encourage patrons for digital library to enhance their knowledge? Christopher, Sudhir, George. Should I repeat? Or
Okay, no, I understand. I can start, and then if you want to add more. I think that the new normal is really critical, and critical for digital libraries to catch this moment, because we have had the experience of users, learners, patrons in general, using the digital library more than before, discovering, I can say, the digital library. And now all these users, which were before not a user of the digital library, they have to continue to use, have to be stimulated, facilitated, engaged, also in continuing with this behavior. So I think that the new normal is very important. There are many articles in the digital library perspective issue, special issue about the e-learning. E-learning was in the digital library too, were really in this period accelerated.
Dr. Juan, do you want to add something?
Yeah, perhaps very briefly. Before the pandemic, to provide exchanges and services to users was kind of optional. Right now, it's not. And in the near future, perhaps it will continue this way. So if some libraries didn't consider it, they should be doing it by now, right? To provide more online services to explore new opportunities and also new ways to engage their users. That's all.
Thank you to both of you. Now the question is, someone is a bit confused among the online interactive teaching tools like Zoom and other video chat software, with the online learning platform like Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, etc., and Web 2.0 version of academic libraries in the digital library term. So what should be the equation between all this, and how the practice and existence of digital libraries should be connected with these tools? Zoom and video chat, online learning platforms like Moodle, etc., and Web 2.0 version of academic libraries.
Well,
Relationship,
if
digital
I
library.
if I may, uh, for instance, at least Zoom has very good acceptance among students. So if we are thinking about the technology acceptance model, this is among one of the favorite softwares, and you can see even in the stock market that Zoom has been doing very, very well. But it will depend on the users. Users in different parts of the world will prefer different software. So it's part of knowing your own community. And of course, these kinds of softwares will allow you to create different activities, mainly instructional activities for your users, where you will find that you have more possibilities to express and to provide different kinds of instruction to your users and to engage them. And these are very, very good tools that were mainly produced for meetings, business meetings, and then adopted for learning. And then you can also use them, of course, in libraries.
I can add, Susmita, a colleague,
Yes.
that there is to be considered a better open education
Yes.
for lifelong learning. And inside open education, we have to consider open source platform, because another criteria, in addition to the criteria given by Juan, is the privacy and the control of the platform, as open source platform are. And so it is the instructional designer or the digital librarian or the digital librarian with the capability to do instructional design to choose the best platform for each learning needs, because it depends from the age, it depends from the learning objective and learning outcome. And so good question anyway.
Yeah, really. And a very comprehensive answer from you too. So we will go to the next question. Would you briefly mention the standards for developing digital library that could be integrated with learning management system and various publisher sites such as LTI?
I don't know if I understand it better. Probably to develop a private digital library.
Standards for developing digital library that could be integrated with learning management system and various publisher site such as LTI, integrated system.
Okay. No, the question is the relationship between digital library and platform in general.
Yes.
Any platform, including the journal.
Publishers, yeah.
This depends from the policy of the digital library. There are many possibilities, or the digital library can be embedded in the platform, or can be connected. And also in my presentation, I try to stimulate that also digital library can be any learning platform. And so the relation between electronic resource and collection, platform, and digital library has to be managed, organized. This is also why digital library are socio-technical systems. To develop an e-learning environment, they are not alone. They have to organize all the relationship possible with company, with private, with public institutions. And so there are the standards, but the standards are related not only to technology, the standards are related to policy, organization.
Next question is from Susan List Trethan. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. Do you have some data on how many students were able to access a computer in the beginning of the pandemic in comparison to the situation now?
I suggest you to keep track of the COVID social lab studies, because we did that study at the beginning of the pandemic from March to May, I believe. It was the data collection, and now we are collecting data in the context of the second wave. So results will be comparable, and you can find the data per survey country about the access to a computer. That is a very, very important point. Yeah.
Anything else, Ana Maria?
Actually, it's difficult to find research of the same depth of sites of one. I have read some paper, and the problem is very spread, not only related to context of developing countries, but also in developed countries. All the problem, obstacles during the pandemic were given by the infrastructure, the connection, the device. But also I understood that the capability is probably the most important obstacle. And I hope that digital libraries invest more time, more effort in media information literacy, and giving more capability to both teachers and the students to improve the situation.
One question from another sort of thing is there. Do you think digital libraries can solve the issue of cultural relativism, conflict with the censorship in political and cultural field? P.S. Cultural relativism, it may think some foreign items violate the own civic value. So it is in strong language, you can say.
Very, very high level question.
Yeah, very strong language.
Yeah, I think that the digital library should surely guide this cultural relativism, because they have value. Digital library can be distinguished by other services because they have strong value of universalism, for example, and they are guided in their organization to let exactly this situation. And so it's a short answer, but probably we need more. Probably we can continue later to reply to this question. But I think the cultural role of digital libraries is one of the main pillars and the advantage of digital library in comparison with other providers.
Yeah, right, you are. I think we should include a multicultural section of a section of IFLA along with us to answer this issue on greater details. This is really a very sensitive and comprehensive issue that should be tackled, because inclusiveness is becoming a dream, and non-tolerance is becoming the issue nowadays. So we can take up issue with the multicultural section of IFLA again in some other seminar.
So the mission of Digital Library is ADI, to promote inclusion, equity, and for all.
Yeah. So next question is, do you think the self-learning approach is the key to the success for digital libraries and learning in post-pandemic era? Why or why not? Self-learning approach.
Yeah, this is the lifelong learning approach, and digital libraries are devoted to all age and all learning needs. I just described the Europeana space, which was in particular for employment, and so using the digital library not only for get a certificate, but for entering in the job, in the workplace. There are specific programs for the digital libraries. Open education is another driver, because of many OER to be used by a single learner. But as I said in my presentation, individual learning, personalized learning is supported, but also digital library added value is connection. And so to put the individual learners in connection with others, or experts, or others learners with the same needs. And so I think that this has to be considered, because in the internet everybody can find a resource for self-learning, but in the digital library you should find also connection to other learners in sharing learning.
Okay. Anything from Dr. Juan?
Yeah, the way I see it, self-learning and curiosity are very important traits that mutually influence each other. So the pandemic has shown that self-learning might not be so strong. So perhaps we can learn from the pandemic that we should foster it as a very important skill.
Thank you. And another question is, to the existence of digital libraries, does journal platforms play the role as digital libraries? Journal platforms play the role as digital libraries? Very important question. It is like Google is the replacement of libraries. So now journal platforms play the role of libraries.
This is a recurrent question. Always the existence of the web of Google seems to make not redundant the existence of digital library. I confess that if you have limited time, the possibility, the functionalities of the digital library are incomparable. If you have a lot of time to spend in the internet, you can try to achieve the same knowledge. I think that we don't have to underestimate the cultural role of the digital library, which don't impede, don't obstacle the use of the internet, the use of Google, but give more focus and support to individual learners, give more functionalities.
Mr. Boshir asks, do you think that the pandemic increased the information poverty?
Information for?
Poverty. P-O-V-E-R-T.
Yeah. No, this is one of the mission of the digital library, to avoid or to facilitate the success the digital divide. Is one of the problems we have evidenced in the pandemic. Also in the question before, we said that the problem, the obstacle of students. And so this is a universal issue. Digital library try to facilitate the solution or find a remedy.
Yes, surely. Yes. And next question from Mohammad Faruqullah. He thanks you both for the nice presentation and wants to ask, can digital e-learning system affects the conventional library system? Is it a competitor of conventional library system? Digital e-learning system versus conventional library system. Dr. Juan, please.
I think the question is from the technical point of view. And so learning management system instead of digital asset management system. I don't think there is a competition. I see there is an evolution.
Yeah.
All the libraries can evolve, become a digital library. Also, partially, and so integrate a digital library system in the learning system or library learning system. It's similar to the question before about integration of digital library platform. This is policy, not technicalities. If you have the mission to become a digital library, you have to integrate the system, but also the services and the organization. And so really there is no competition. Competition is on the needs and the choice to be done, the organizational policy. When we say digital library is a socio-technical system, we stress that technology is not enough. It's not a technology choice. It's a technology of organization, mission, and especially learner or user needs.
Now is the time, I think, for our departing from this podium. It was an excellent 1.5 hours to all of you. We wish you well in your journey of seeking knowledge again and again from various specialists. We at IFLA Set will be offering you a series of webinars on various aspects to be lectured by internationally, globally renowned speakers from their own experiences and research work. They will convey their heartfelt quality research in front of you, just as Professor Ana Maria and Dr. Professor Juan de Machin-Mastromatteo have done today. So at this last leg of our journey today, at our webinar, we thank you kindly, Madam Dr. Professor Ana Maria Tammaro. Thank you very much for using such an extensive research work, presenting it to us in such lucid manners, being so helpful with the questions, taking all questions very patiently, explaining in such details all the complicated reasoning that are associated with this complex relationship between digital library and learning. And Dr. Juan, you are one of the associates in research in this great research work. You have collected so much data on this. So from that live data, you have realized so much insight which you have put forth in your speech. So that speech has become really useful for all of us here as participants and also as the organizers. I will take this opportunity to ask all our panelists as well as all our participants to share with us your feedbacks at all our social media channels. We have Facebook at IFLA we have Instagram at IFLA and we have our emails, we have our homepage for IFLA we have our bulletin, set bulletin. Please share your findings, your research work at our webinar. Please write to us if you want to present a unique piece of study to share with the global audience. Thank you so much for joining us all here. And last but not the least, I wish to thank IFLA headquarters for providing us this technical support, and also special thanks to Albina and to Kendra Albright, our chair and our secretary, for inspiring us throughout the journey of IFLA. Thank you, Professor Ana Maria. Thank you, Dr. Namaskar.
Thank you, Susmita. Thank you all. Thank you, Juan.